One of the qualities that teachers particularly value in their pupils is persistence or resilience. What do I mean by this? Persistence means sticking with difficulty, not giving up easily, keeping going when things get hard. And resilience is about sorting things out when things go wrong, but sorting it out for yourself, not waiting for someone else to come and fix it. These are really important qualities and they are central to creativity. Creative people always have great resilience, great persistence and are able to keep going. And today's employers particularly look for this quality in the people that they employ. But the question is, how do you develop persistence and resilience, and which children find it most difficult? The American educationalist Carol Dweck has done a lot of research in this area and has shown that young people from poorer backgrounds are likely to have much lower levels of persistence and resilience. There's an exercise that she has done with young people by which she sets them a task and she tells them that if they're successful, they can have a sweet. When they finish the exercise and they've been successful, she offers them the sweet, but says, but if you wait till the end of the day, I'll give you 2 sweets. Some children take the sweet immediately. Some children wait until the end of the day because they want to get 2 sweets. That shows them being much more persistent and resilient because they're sticking with the challenge. But what she's also shown is it's young people from poorer backgrounds who will always take the sweet first. They won't wait. They don't have the ability to defer their satisfaction, if you like, in this process. And what do we know about young people from poorer backgrounds and their attitudes towards education? We did a big survey of pupils in Hungary, in which we gave them statements and we asked them to tell us whether they thought the statements were true about them. All the time, sometimes, rarely, never. And one of the statements that we gave them was, I only learn what I'm interested in. And these are the poorest children here, and these are the children from the more affluent backgrounds. And what you see very clearly is that 60% of the poorest children say they always or nearly always are only willing to learn what they're interested in. Whilst the children from the richer background, you've got almost 70% are saying they're willing to learn what they're not interested in. What's the difference? Well, if you're willing to learn what you're not interested in, it's because you recognize that if you work through the boring things, in the end, you'll get benefit. You'll do well in education, you'll get good qualifications, you'll get a good job. But young people from the poorer backgrounds don't believe that. They don't believe it's worth working through the boring things because they don't believe that in the long term they will get the jobs and the qualifications that will lead to a more successful life. So if you are going to engage young people from poorer backgrounds and engage them so they work through difficulty and keep going, then you have to develop things that they are interested in or approaches to activities which show that they are engaged and interested. I'll give you an example of a project we did in Lithuania. This was a class in Lithuania that we were working with, and the teacher had asked us to help work with the children on learning their letters. They were just beginning to learn to read and write, and they wanted to learn their letters, and the children found it very boring and were not very engaged in this process. But what we did in this activity is we started off by getting the children to lie in their classroom and to listen to all the sounds that they could hear. Because we thought that the reason they were having difficulty learning their letters is because they weren't listening. Letters represent sounds, and this is key to learning to read and write. Once we'd got them to listen, we took them out into the town. And here they are at a railway station in the town, and what they are doing is listening to all the sounds they can hear and using letters to recreate the sound. So they know what the letters are, and whatever sound they can hear, they have to write down in their notebooks a combination of letters which reproduce that sound. Here they are in a subway, doing exactly the same thing, listening and writing letters which reproduce that sound. Here they are in an indoor market, doing exactly the same. And what you can see very clearly here is the intense concentration on their faces as they are writing. And to me this is really interesting because I remember still being at school learning my letters, and learning my letters was so boring. I sat there writing b, 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 k, k, k. I was bored, I would give up very easily. Here, the children are really engaged by this process and are really focused and concentrating hard for long periods. Here are some children trying to listen to a statue. We took the children to a university in the town, and we took them to a Turkish lecture. The children were not Turkish, had never spoken to any Turkish in their lives, and what they had to do was sit there using letters, try and write Turkish. Then we brought them back to the class, and everybody looked at everybody else's notebooks, and their job was to come up with the best words that one of them had come up with using letters to reproduce sounds that they had heard. And this is the sheet from one of the groups who had done this. And at the top you see the word stotis, which is the Lithuanian word for station, and the first word underneath that is chektikas, and that's the word that the children invented to repeat the sound of a train coming into the station. Chektikas, 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 chektikas. And all these words are words that the children invented using letters to reproduce sounds they heard. It is very, very good practice for them learning their letters, but it's also great fun and very engaging. And when you start to engage the children in activities which are fun, you will find that their persistence and their resilience goes right up, and you begin to get the levels of sticking with difficulty that you would really like with your children, and overcoming challenges and resolving problems for themselves. You need to think about this a lot in your teaching, because teachers generally are really nice people, and what they try and do is fix it for children whenever the children get into difficulty. Therefore, they supply the answer to the question as soon as they can see that the children can't find the answer or don't know the answer. They will help a child out of difficulty by showing what to do as soon as the child gets into difficulty. And of course that's nice, but the trouble is that the pupils then become dependent on the teacher to solve all their problems. And when they leave school, there's going to be no teacher there to do that. They have to learn to solve the problems for themselves. And therefore, teachers need to learn to step back and let children fail, and then let them learn how to get themselves out of that. So we're going to do an activity now in which we're going to ask you to develop lesson plans in groups which encourage the resilience of children and young people. And in developing the lesson plan, you should think about resilience as a habit of mind that you're trying to develop in the class, but the activity should have as many elements from the high-functioning classroom as possible. We'll put you into groups, and that will be your activity.